Hi guys, welcome to my stream. Um, just thought today let's talk about the contentious subject of chivalry, and let's deep dive into the topic of chivalry and see what the current state of play is. What is chivalry? Who killed it? And what do people feel about the current state of chivalry today and how it's affecting society? So you can join me on the live stream. I go live every now and then, just share my thoughts on topical issues. So I'll put a link on this for a Zoom meeting in the chat, and you can join me on Zoom, and hopefully we can have an intellectual conversation on chivalry. So bear with me 1 second. We will I'll share a link in a minute. Okay. So what is chivalry? Here's a little history about chivalry and what it means. So chivalry, the knightly class of feudal times. Okay. Let's share my screen. So you can get a broad overview of what chivalry means. There's the Zoom meeting link in the chat. Zoom link. You can click the link in the chat. Okay. So just bear with me 1 second. I just need to fix the stream and then we'll be good to go. I don't know what's happened here. Okay. Okay. So let's have a look. So let's go back on YouTube and let's see if I can share my screen on YouTube. Okay. So, okay, let's go back to the Zoom meeting. Let's share screen. Okay. So, let's say sharing the screen. Stop screen share. Select the window to share. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen. So chivalry, the knightly class of feudal times, the primary sense of the term in Europe in the Middle Ages in knights, or fully armed and mounted fighting men. Thence the term come to mean the gallantry and honor expected of knights. Later, the word came to be used in its general sense of courtesy. Okay, so in let's close some of these ads, annoying ads. Okay, so close that and let's close that. Okay, so in English law, chivalry meant the tenure of land by knights service, the court of chivalry instituted by Edward III, with the Lord High Constable and Earl Marshal of England as joining judges, had the summary jurisdiction in all cases of offences of knights and generally as to military matters. The concept of chivalry, again, the concept of chivalry is in the sense of honourable and courteous conduct expected of a knight, was perhaps at its height in the 12th and 13th centuries, was strengthened by the Crusades, which led to the founding of the earliest orders of chivalry, the Order of Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem, and the Order of Poor Knights. And then it goes on. So chivalry means honor. Various senses of the word come from being applied on the basis of a specific environment, although many of these fell out over time. That's a woman's honor. And then it goes on and on. So let's see if we can find another good definition of chivalry. Let's go to meaning of chivalry. Okay. Oh, how about history of chivalry? History of chivalry. How about that? So it says here, chivalry was established to keep thuggish medieval knights in check. In the 21st century, the word chivalry evokes a kind of old-fashioned male respect for women. And I think this is really important. during the Middle Ages, the code was established for much grittier reasons. But chivalry in general, and I think the way it's understood today in modern day age, is as clearly defined here. And I think it's really concise. It's an old fashioned male respect for women. Old fashioned male respect for women is chivalry. So, what do we classify as old fashioned respect for women? You open doors for women, you cater to women, you pander to women, you treat women like they're the price. So, traditionally, women have tend to be the physically weaker sex. So, man being stronger and more physically dominant is always expected to protect the woman. So, traditionally, men had to be chivalrous, traditional, and old fashioned, right? So, but what history tells us here is that during the Middle Ages, the code was established for much grittier reasons. At a time of routine military violence with massive civilian, beg your pardon, civilian casualties, chivalry was an effort to set ground rules for knightly behavior. While these rules sometimes dictated generous treatment of the less fortunate and less powerful, they were focused mainly on protecting the interests of the elites. The development of chivalry went hand in hand with the rise of knights, heavily armored, mounted warriors from elite backgrounds. Starting around the time of the Norman conquest of England in 1066, the word chivalry itself comes from the medieval Latin caballarius, meaning horseman. In the middle of the 11th century, the knight was not a particularly honourable figure. He's a hired thug, says Jennifer Goodman Wallock, a professor of medieval studies at Texas A&M University, who has written 2 books about chivalry. He's got horses, he's got armor, he's like a heavy tank. So knights were heavily armed and prone to violence. So this is what history tells us. There was never a firm consensus on what it meant to be a good knight. The most common value found in rules that commanders created for knights revolved around the practical needs for military force, bravery in battle, and loyalty to one's lord and companions. Chivalry Knights appears to be a romantic fiction. Okay, let's try D. Is chivalry dead? So, why chivalry is dead and what it means for Romans. Somewhere as you're reading this, a man you're struck by is complaining that chivalry is dead. But how? Let's look at the credibility of this. So he says here, the writer of this article, I don't know his name, by Regan editorial team. Okay. Chivalry was a code of conduct that governed the behavior of knights in the Middle Ages of Europe. The code included the coming to the aid of damsels in distress, but it had to do with martial interactions for the most part. Okay, so the next significant reason is that the concept of chivalry, in particular its approach to romance, experienced a resurgence in popularity among well-to-do Europeans around the 19th century. This is one of the golden ages of the novel. Right, what is wrong with that? There are a couple of reasons. That chivalry doesn't make a whole lot of sense as a romantic toolbox in our current day and age. It has to do with gender roles, economics, and politics. As we've discussed, and I am around this paragraph, chivalry was codified for use by feudal knights and the people they interacted with, other wealthy and powerful people. This put their military and political power in direct contact with the lack of physical and political power that was the wealthy lady. Furthermore, because ladies in feudal Europe were married for money or politics rather than for love, they were often in a position to need saving. Finally, there wasn't a lot of room for social mobility in feudal Europe. A knight was going to live and die a knight. A lady was going to live and die a lady. A man was always going to be more powerful than a woman. Clearly, the chivalric code's instructions regarding protecting and serving a woman are not harmful. However, they don't track very well in today's society. I do agree with this statement. Okay. Clearly, the chivalric code's instructions regarding protecting and serving women are not harmful. Wait a minute. The chivalric code's instructions regarding protecting and serving women are not harmful. However, they don't track well in today's society. So I guess what the writer is saying today is that the chivalry instruction regarding protecting and serving a woman's interest are not harmful. Generally, in principle, you would say that if men and women fell into our gender roles, then the principle of protecting and serving a woman's interest as a chivalrous male, it's not harmful. I agree, I think, but there's one problem here, and I think the writer puts it quite well, that they don't track very well in today's society. Today, women seldom need chivalric care, and men are seldom equipped to provide it. As a result, treating women with chivalry today, even by those who mean well, necessarily means exalting the self and putting down the lady. To treat a woman chivalrously is to say, I'm using the strength and power that I have inherited through my manhood to protect the weakness and vulnerability that you have inherited through your womanhood. Do you see why no woman wants to hear that? What does that mean for Romans? Okay, now that we understand that chivalry is and why it's dead, what's a man to do? Why do you let a woman know you care for her without honor jewels, slaying dragons, holding doors open? You can still hold doors open. You can do whatever you want. Chivalry was a code of conduct, and now it's dead. You can court women in any way you see fit. Start from square one. See what works and what doesn't work. Just be respectful and be genuine. I think the writer here is somewhat conflating a condescending male, a patronizing male, with a willingness to be chivalrous. I do agree. And yeah, well, you could say that, sometimes people come across as a bit arrogant, and men can act with a sense of superiority over women, and women don't feel the need to be protected. But I think the world we live in now is that we've civilized the world so much, protected the world so much, that now women can effectively walk without the protection of a man. There's law enforcement, um, civilization, and various modern day conventions has led to a safer world. So, going back to this article, okay. So, what the writer's saying here is that men are not equipped to deal with chivalry, right? So, and women don't need chivalrous men. I think that's what he's implying here. I might be wrong. Let's read further. Chivalry died because it means to be a woman, because what it means to be a woman has changed. What it means to be a man is changing too. Okay, chivalry died because what it means to be a woman has changed. What it means to be a man is changing too. Okay, you're going to get a lot more credibility with the ladies and live a healthier, happier life if you act based on your compass. Don't treat women the way that men treated women 700 years ago. Treat women the way that you think men should treat women today. Please don't treat them as soft and powerful and powerless things that need to be protected. Treat them like strong and powerful people that need support, like your strong, powerful person that needs support. Well, this is a bit crazy. because what the writer's saying here is that we should treat women like strong, powerful people that need support. Like we're strong, powerful people that need support. Sure, we should treat women equal. But we know reality is not equal. You look at sports, you look at the military, you look at the dangerous jobs in the world, they're still done by men. So if you're on a ship and it starts sinking, let's say you're on a ship, you're a man, a couple of guys, you're on a ship, starts sinking, who gets saved first? Women and children. So some traditional chivalry framework still exists in society today by default, because whilst women have become more powerful, they're a lot more liberated, and they can get jobs and they can pursue their ambitions, there are still some underlying factors, that chivalry factors, that drive society today. And when push comes to shove, we tend to fall into our gender roles. As I said, if there was a violent crime today, chances are the person turns up at your door is going to be either a couple of males, or if a woman is part of the group, she's probably going to be accompanied by a couple of male law enforcement officers. So our biological makeup has not changed as human beings. So when the writer says, please don't treat them as soft and powerless things that need to be protected, I think there are two extremes here. You're not saying to women, oh, I think you're weak, I think you need saving, oh, are you okay to open the door? I think there's a middle ground somewhere, that women still expect men to be traditional. They still expect men to respect them. They still expect men to fulfill certain gender roles. You know, if you walk through a door and you didn't keep a door open for a woman, she's going to look at it a certain way. And the classic one, you take a woman on a date, the bill comes, you're expected to foot 100% of the bill. Come on, guys. We all know this. So there is no way you're going to, sustain these principles, that you treat women like strong and powerful people that simply need support. If women think that way, then women should desire guys the same height as them. What this writer's pushing here is that women have become powerful, strong, and we need to treat them as equal. But we know women don't want equality, because in the balance of probability, especially within the context of dating, women want a guy who's taller than them, a guy who earns more, is more confident, more intelligent, more knowledgeable, more experienced. So, and as a man, at some point, your leadership qualities are going to be called into play. So, women go through various phases in life. She might be pregnant. She might be having some emotional issues that she might need you to be the rock that she could rely on. So I'm a bit bemused by this article, but let's read on. All of this slamming chivalry doesn't mean that you can't learn from it. The knights of old and the shined up versions of them that have been passed down in stories are fine role models. Just remember that their lives were bigger than just courting women. The old knights were sworn to protect themselves in distress, and they were also sworn to protect the poor and live honest and just life. If you are going to help a woman, help her because she's a person who could use a hand, not because you think that she needs you to be her knight in shining armor, and certainly not because she hoped to get something out of it. Okay. So this is somewhat suggesting that some men use chivalry to exploit women. But we know the opposite argument is also true. Women use their feminine traits, their feminine gifts, their sexuality to explore men. Okay, this is one more thing that we can learn from chivalry, and it has to do with power dynamics. We've already discussed how the knights of old were regularly in position that put themselves in harm's way for mistreated ladies. You can still do that kind of. A lot has changed since chivalry was codified, and that's why it died. However, while women have a lot more freedom and power now than they did then, in many circumstances, men are given more than their fair share of power and influence. You don't have to fight duels over a fair maiden's honor. The next time you see a woman being mistreated or underrepresented in your work, where you go to school, or anywhere else, stand up for them. Okay. The next time you see a woman being mistreated or underrepresented in your workplace or where you go to school, and stand up for them. Just remember, it shouldn't be about hoping for some reward or doing something because you feel somewhat honor bound to an antiquated code of conduct that you read about in some book. It should be about doing the right thing. Okay, so if it's about doing the right thing, it shouldn't be about a man or a woman. If you see, I mean, let's revisit this paragraph again, and it just highlights the further ridiculousness of some components of this article. Okay. The next time, I'm reading from here, the next time you see a woman being mistreated or underrepresented in your workplace, where you go to school, or anywhere else, stand up for them. But why does it have to be a woman? If I see anybody being mistreated in the workplace, right, school, or anywhere else, I'll stand up for them irrespective of gender. However, if you see, let's be honest, I mean, this guy who wrote this article is living in a fairy tale world, to be honest. Just remember, it shouldn't be about hoping for some reward or doing it because you feel somehow honor bound to an antiquated code of conduct that you read about in some book. It's about doing the right thing. Okay. So if it's about doing the right thing and it's not about doing it because you expect a reward, then the gender should not matter. As I said, whilst we have this ideal world that we want to live in where everybody gets treated equally, we know that our biological makeup does not drive equality. On the balance of probability, men are stronger than women. On the balance of probability, men have an appetite to do dangerous jobs, women don't. Okay? On the balance of probability, if you went out on a date with a woman, right, and the bill comes, you would be expected to foot 100% of the bill. Now, if you want to treat it the equal thing to do, as is being advocated here, to say, hey, it was nice. This dinner was really nice. Here's the bill. It's a $200 bill, £200 bill. It's £100 for you, £100 for me. Okay. Present this proposal to most women, and you probably never see them again. Right, let's read on. When people objectify women or speak to them as weak or irrational, speak to them with respect. Navigating modern day relationships. I think, okay, that's it. Chivalry has so much staying power because it was a rule book. People pretend that they don't like rules, but they really don't like enforcement. They like rules. Rules tell us what to do. You didn't have to listen to women or understand them or care what they said to you, what they said when you led a chivalrous life, because chivalry told you that you had to do in a given circumstance. When we don't have a rule book today, if things are changing too fast for no reason other than that, from the fall of the Roman Empire to the beginning of the Renaissance was roughly 1,000 years ago. From a psychological and technical perspective, not a lot has changed. By comparison, 1,000 years before you read in this was the middle of the ages. We live in completely different social and technological landscape than we did 1,000 years ago and 1,100 years ago. So when you need someone to tell you what to do, what do you turn to? Okay. Okay, so sure, what does it mean you can't treat women with respect and be a good person? It just means that you have to do it for the sake of being a good person rather than to land a girlfriend. Well, okay. Interesting. So, men are chivalrous for a reason. Okay. Some do it with no expectation. So, chivalry, as we all know, just to bring this a full circle, because I've been reading a lot of this article, some of it which is quite ridiculous. Chivalry is the code of conduct that governs the fundamental behavior of knights. And some of the underlying principles that govern this behavior, including gentlemanly conduct, honor, respect, courage, etc. And over time, this has translated to uh, protecting damsels in distress and sometimes seen as protecting women. So society is a lot fairer when men are chivalrous because we are gifted, as I say, with um, we're gifted as the more physical gender, more powerful, more capable, more logical. So similar to and I'll divert a little bit here. It's it's the same concept that you can apply to persons of reduced mobility. So people who are visually impaired or physically impaired. So we invent modern day conventions to ensure that they can have a similar quality of life as us. So having lifts, having ramps, um, tactile paving, things like that. So people who have personal reduced mobility can enjoy, as I said, the same quality of life as us. This is not treating them as less than us, but it's just ensuring that when we um, develop society, we also consider them. So I think that same argument can be applied to women in the sense that we know that women are not capable of reaching some of uh, the genetic potential that a man can reach. So we compensate for that, and I think it's right that certain parts of this article that I agree with is that if you want to be chivalrous, do it in good faith. Don't do it in the expectation of what you're going to gain from the woman. I can agree with that. But we also know that women demand chivalrous men before they even entertain them. So guys must perform to deal with women. We understand that to deal with a woman, you have to be chivalrous. If you go on a date with a woman and you don't pay 100% of the bill, she's not going to see you again, even if your intention was good. Okay? If you go on a date with a woman and you don't act like a gentleman and you don't make her feel a certain way, she's going to be turned off. So, guys do not have the option on whether to be chivalrous or not when you're dealing with a woman. You have to be chivalrous to get to any kind of level with the woman. For a lot of guys, it's not optional, right? They're obliged. You're obliged to be chivalrous. So this whole article about be chivalrous because it's the right thing to do, don't do it to expect something is nonsense. Okay, you can't say on the other hand women have matured, they're a lot more powerful, but at the same time men should be chivalrous. So there's a bit of a contradiction here. Let's see if we can find a video. Let's go to let's look at is chivalry dead? Okay, let's try this. Hang on, hang on a minute. Alpha female's guide to oh man, alpha female's guide to men and marriage. Come on. This is ridiculous. Alpha Female's Guide to Men in Marriage. Let's see what this nonsense is about. Mm. Okay. Let's let's share this again. Mhm. Let's go. Well said, Suzanne. Well said. Wow, that was a lot. Well said, Suzanne. Let's see what is rebuttal. Okay, so my biggest takeaway from that video is that um, there's a kind of a confusion going on between men and women in the dating world that, you know, women these days say, I can do it all by myself. I don't need a man. I don't need a man to open doors for me. I don't need a man to pay my bills. I don't need anything. But when it's, which is fine, you work, women are welcome to think that way. But I think when it's all said and done, you got to understand that our biological wiring, our biological makeup is very profound in the way men and women go about setting themselves up for the challenges of this world and the way we tackle issues, right? And when we come together, that biological makeup is very visible, you know. So a man has a natural tendency to want to protect a woman. A man has a natural tendency to want to provide for a woman. Now, women can say, "Well, we don't need a man to do all of that," but we know that's a bit disingenuous because women's all dating practices show that they want a man to be somewhat chivalrous and have some leadership role. Women want some guy, somebody who's taller than them, makes more money than them, is more confident, more assertive, more intelligent, more knowledgeable. So by women's own dating practices, they seek a traditional man, a chivalrous man. Okay. So you can't say you're independent, you don't need a man to do such and such for you, but at the same time, your own dating practices says that you want some sort of a superior who is chivalrous. So I do agree with Susan Walker, who was just on Fox News there, that it's a bit chaotic, the world we live in at the moment. I think the world, or biologically, we were not created for the modern day challenges that we're facing today. We're so far out of our nature that it's complete chaos. So, food for thought. Chivalry is dead, but there is also a lot of confusion. Men, for the most part, have stayed traditional, I think, but the bar has been raised somewhat. I think um, I'll take that back. I wouldn't say men have necessarily stayed traditional, but I think um, the emergence of the modern day woman, the educated, the successful woman, has raised the bar for men. And the thing is, you're either emasculated because you cannot reach the standard that women are setting, or you're masculine and you can rise to that standard. Only few men can rise to the standard that certain women are setting, and it comes from your earning power, you're confident, you're intelligent. Women are generally very social creatures, so um, to be able to deal with a modern day woman a modern day independent woman in this day and age, it's a very tough proposition for a lot of men, you know. And a lot of guys don't want to deal with it, because it's quite challenging. Um, Women are adopting this to kind of dual ideological role that, um, on one hand, they want to be independent, da 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 da, but at the same time they're dealing with men. I want you to do this. Independent women don't go on dates and expect to pay the full bill. They still expect the man to settle the full bill. So this is how ridiculous this whole argument is. So I think, when it's all said and done, when it's all said and done, um, it's confusion. There's a lot of confusion in the world today and age, and the sad thing about all of this is that the men and women are not getting the dating outcomes they want. You know, um, so you're not going. As a woman, my advice to women today is that, um, you know, do you know, first of all, what a quality man looks like? A lot of women don't know what a quality man looks like, and men would tell you whatever you need to hear to be able to have sex with you. So, um, it's a bit of a tricky one. Men cannot express certain masculine traits. They will not attain the heights that allows them to exert any kind of masculine authority over you, because they will completely turn you off. And it's also a lot about demand and supply. There's a lot of, shall we say, flimsy men in this world today, a lot of underperforming men, a lot of goofballs who are diluting male masculinity. So for every one masculine man, there are about 100 simps who will do anything for a woman. And some of these guys are decent guys with decent jobs and everything else, but they will do anything. They will tell a woman anything she wants to hear just because they want sex. So, um, there is an oversupply of, you know, inadequate men who are diluting everything for upstanding, chivalrous men who want to do the right thing in good faith. And the end result is chaos. So, on that note, I'll end my stream. Um, if you happen to watch this back, yeah, drop me a line in the message, and we'll take it from there. But other than that, have a good Saturday, enjoy your day, and take care. Take care and peace.